Yeah.
But G Dad juice, and I think it's adorable. We're
Oh,
not going to let the show go off the rails like we did last time.
No, we're not.
Recently, it was announced that longtime cultural commentator, political pundit, actor, house music enthusiast Cornel West was throwing his hat in the ring as a candidate for the highest office in the land, the United States presidency. West, who was the subject of scorn during the late aughts, had fallen out of favor with many in the Black community for his harsh criticisms of the first Black president, Barack Obama. He was able to have a bit of a redemption during the U.S. political awakening that is the 2016 and 2020 presidential campaigns with his support for Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Should we be excited to see a progressive voice like West run for office? Like Trump in 2016, he, West, has built a 40-plus year career as a public persona. But unlike Trump, he didn't advertise himself as a self-made billionaire who understood the realm of politics despite his lack of experience because, he paid off politicians to make sure he could get things done. It's been well documented that Trump used his cultural capital and populist rhetoric to rise from the television screen to the White House. Can Cornel West do the same thing? Pascal, he was an actor too. He was in the Matrix movies.
He was. I have some disclosures I think I have to make relative to Cornel West. I think that you and I think we have not different opinions, but I think that we come from a different vantage point. Is that one of the things I think that inures me to have a bit of an affection for Dr. West is that when my mentors, Bruce and Glenn, early on started Black Agenda Report, they were getting destroyed in the Black community by people who were their close friends and allies for challenging the salience of this notion that the first Black president was going to be some kind of hero and salvation for Black people. Mm-hmm. And frankly, one of the few people that gave them solace was Cornel West, and who was really willing to stand with them at that time. So I've interacted with West well before that while I was in law school and other times as well. But he did stand with them when they were not getting much affection from members of the Black community for ultimately being right and realizing that Obama was nothing but a neoliberal token in terms of his presidential ability. So that being said, how I look at Dr. West in this presidential run, as fondly as I've viewed him, and as much I've written, I've actually wrote a piece about him in the Huffington Post in 2010. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to understand what exactly he's bringing to the table that differ from the Bernie Sanders narrative. I understand that he's trying to say that he's talking about clarifying to people that the neoliberal corporate Democrats are not effectively enough to defeat the neo-fascist right. But at the same time, I think Jason Miles and his critique that is about to be exposed to you all is correct in saying is Cornel West being nothing more than influencing.
Well, let me finish. What does it say about the political imagination of a burgeoning left that the answer to a rising authoritarian right wing is to run another celebrity candidate, this time on the left? Yes, there are celebrities in left spaces, and I feel we are in the age of the influencer, an end of history moment where the challenge to neoliberalism is engagement with fragmented audiences masquerading as politics. Mass culture is dead. Mass politics has, of course, followed suit. What do we here at TIR make of this moment? So bigger than just the Cornel West presidency, you have a moment where you have a longtime senator running for office in Bernie Sanders against, for the most part, a man that had no political experience whatsoever in Donald Trump, that kind of takes a page out of the now late Silvio Berlusconi's book of, outrage peddling, kind of not necessarily taking the exact verbatim words out of Berlusconi's book, like I'm going to bring a new democracy in because everything is so fragmented with the corruption. But corruption was something he did run on, admitting that, well, I'm the one that paid politicians to get things done. So ergo, I know how to get things done. You saw Bolsonaro in Brazil. Also, Duterte reigns and leaves office for another potential dictator in Bongbong Marcos, whose father led a very, very bloody regime in the 70s and into the 80s. What is it about this moment right now that you think a Cornel West can feel comfortable to run for office in, Pascal?
That's a very, very good question. I think that what is intrinsic about this moment is the complete delegitimization of institutions that is taking place in the period that we call the neoliberal counter-revolution of the last 50 plus years, the 50 plus year counter-revolution, the complete gutting and hollowing of institutions by merging with the state, with the private corporation, the private public partnership, the falling apart of institutions as a consequence of the 2008 crash, the way in which state institutions have been unable to weather crisis storms like COVID, as well as other illnesses and diseases, the way in which citizens have been unable to use mass politics to mobilize any results, the distance in terms of response from our elected officials from caring about the actual condition of individuals, the way in which our society, particularly in the United States, has been so anesthetized from caring about the suffering and the immiseration of the increasingly pauperized or made poor members of our society, has turned us into a position where now, because we have cheap entertainment, we are now basically virtually streaming ourselves into oblivion. Instead of just having a few hours of TV at night, you can sit down and almost kind of like drug yourself for 12 to 6 hours of your favorite streaming over and over again. I think that people are so atomized and fractured in this age of digital entertainment, AI. I'm thinking of people putting on their goggles and going into their little virtual universes. And all of us have become so fragmented as social individuals that we trust no type of cohesion mechanisms, political mechanisms. And as a result, we want the things that tickle our little feelings. He's funny. I like Trump. He makes me laugh. Cornell says some deep stuff. Ooh, I like the way he waxes. That little poetry he does is kind of cool. Oh, Marianne Williamson. Hey, she seems so kind of hippie like. I like the vibes. So it's not about what anyone means anymore or what anyone says. It's about how they make you feel, how they make you laugh, how they tickle your fancy. Everything is a product. Those are signs of the way products are sold to people. As a result, no one's really processing what is the actual political consequence. It's all about how the product is marketed to them.